Today I'm going to be talking about a lesson I wished I learned maybe 10, 12, 15 years ago. I wish someone talked to me a little bit more about it, so I probably could have adjusted maybe a bit better. Maybe I could have considered this a little bit more. And that is that connections are often going to beat hard work. Now, in my life, I've worked very, very hard. And I've worked very hard since I'm going to say, since I was probably 12, 13 years old. You know, you start playing basketball, and every little kid, whenever they start playing a sport, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go pro. I'm going to go to the NBA. I'm going to go to the NFL. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And, there's a certain drive. Now, a lot of kids end up becoming, like, getting into a standstill to where they either lose interest in the sport, they pick up other hobbies, they make new friends, and, maybe they push, maybe they don't, and they move on to other things. I wasn't one of those people. I ended up working extremely hard, getting really, really good at basketball, and eventually becoming one of the better players in the gym I was at, and then one of the better players in the school I went to be able to make varsity. And, it was good. I was really good at basketball. And I worked extremely hard. That was my main attribute. I was of the mentality, oh, no one's gonna outwork me. No one's gonna work harder than me. And I try to make sure, to the best of my ability, that that was true, that that was the case, that was gonna happen. And I did. I worked extremely hard, and I did a lot of things well. And I was better than a fair amount of my teammates on my basketball team, especially in high school and varsity. But they did have something that I didn't have, and that was connections, especially connections regarding basketball. You would think that connections aren't the most important thing on a sports team, but anyone who's ever played a competitive sport at a decently high level will tell you, if you're not well connected, you're likely not going to be favored on the team. And that has nothing personal. A lot of people like to take it personally, and I for sure did when I was younger, but it's not a personal thing. It's just something that people oftentimes overlook, and people oftentimes overestimate that the work ethic is going to shine through no matter what. That was my belief. And honestly, since I had no connection, since I had no one who was specifically going to teach me and guide me and kind of push me into rooms and places that I haven't been with people I've never seen, that was the only thing I could have believed. And it did serve me well. It served me extremely well. But I quickly learned, as soon as you start getting a little bit older, not just are they favored, but you're also not going to be even recommended as an athlete to other people if the coach can't seem to benefit from you as he would, maybe recommending other kids on the team who maybe he's coached for longer, or maybe he just knows their parents better, and maybe they give more money to the school. You know, Being favored connections wise is nothing new. This has been the reality since the dawn of human civilization. So it's a problem, and as you get older, especially when you try to start breaking into new industries and in business, it's particularly unfair. You hear the certain trope like, oh, the CEO's son has a super high level position, and he's obviously underqualified, probably super apathetic about it, and you work so much harder, so you deserve the position. You would benefit so much more than he would, and quite honestly, you'd probably be better at the position. But that's just not how it works. And can you be reborn as a CEO's love child? Unfortunately, not. So you have to deal with the reality that you're given. And the reality is that connections are more important than your work ethic. 9 times out of 10, the person with the better connections is going to have a brighter future than the person who works harder. And that is the sad reality. But not all is lost. Connections mean a lot, but they are not everything. Obviously, I wouldn't have gotten to the position I'm in if I didn't work hard. And working hard is very important to acquire a skill. If you are skillless with connections, you're likely a party promoter. But if you are skilled with connections, you can pull a team together and create something good, create something big, create something impactful, something that is overlook that maybe other people haven't had the experience to try, and you get to do something great if you have skills and connections. So not all is lost. The big thing about connections that I wish I learned earlier is that relationships are connections. When you're tossed into the business world and you have to go to these, there are these kind of like basically conferences where people go and connect business wise. It feels very fake, very, performative, quite honestly. It doesn't feel real, it doesn't feel genuine, nor is it supposed to. And that's not where I fit in. These networking events is not where I fit in, not something that I would typically like to go to. And honestly, that's not where I found the best connections. I found the best connections from one person through another, through another, through another, and you always just meet new people. And with every relationship you have, you quickly find out as you get older what's important to you in another person, what's important to you in a relationship. Is it transactional? How much do you care about this person? What are you trying to get out of this person? Are you just getting friendship? Are you just getting, a relationship physically, emotionally? What are you getting from a person? Most relationships are transactional. The ones that really aren't that transactional are usually like parental or familial relationships. But you can get better at creating these relationships. You can get better at you can get better at knowing people and being involved with other people in a genuine capacity without forcing it. So, because relationships are a skill, people don't understand that. It's not about just making the relationship, but also fostering and growing a relationship and nurturing a relationship. You don't necessarily need to be the most charismatic person in the room to make friends. You need to be a bit outgoing, quite honestly, and no one's going to come sweep you up and take you under their wing just because they saw you working hard one day. Maybe that happens to some people, but it's usually a fairy tale. The tip about relationships is that there are different classifications. We're going to talk specifically about business relationships because business relationships is more achievable. I mean, I can tell you as much as I want to how to get a girlfriend, but obviously I'm not going to do that. I don't think that that's what most people need. Most people need friendships and relationships. Connections are relationships. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my personal experience, especially regarding the connections when it comes to business. When I first started in real estate, I knew nobody. I only knew one person who was in real estate, and he did mortgages. He sold one house, and I talked to him for a while before getting my license. And it helped me a little bit understand what I was doing, but once you get in there, if you don't have someone who's far more experienced than you, and you don't have a rich family who's always transacting houses, or you don't have someone who you can take from, you're going to have a really rough time. But then I saw people in their first month transacting millions and millions of dollars in homes. And credit to some of their work, it wasn't their work that usually does it. Typically, 9 times out of 10, the reason people transact more, the reason people are able to perform better often and get better results and get better treatment and better favor is just because of either their friendships or their family relationships. You don't have to just make friends who are richer than you to try to make money. That is not genuine, that is not sustainable, and nor does anyone like that. That is no fun. Whoever wants to just be friends with someone because they're rich, that sucks. I don't want to be, I just feel like a leech. Maybe that's just me, but that's also not how you build and foster a genuine relationship with somebody. A genuine relationship is going to help you far more than a transactional one. My number one tip is to just talk to people, be interested, and ask questions. People who are often well connected always know a guy or know a person. And if you see someone who's in a really good position, you can always ask them, oh, how'd you do this? Did anyone help you? Things like that. Obviously, if you've built a relationship with them, if this is your first time meeting them and they're just more successful than you, and you're just like, oh, who's your mentor? That's ridiculous. That's not something that's genuine. That's not a good interaction. What you are looking for is something more like a relationship you built over a while, and then ask them questions. Just be interested in them. they will start to show you to other people who have helped them. They will start to present you with opportunities, and then you'll eventually start to build relationships and connections with people more successful with more knowledge than you. The reason you want connections is, one, so you can learn, two, so you can build up your network. A network is far more important than people realize. If you're not connected, a network, if you don't have a network and you're not connected, if you're going to hop into a new industry where you know nobody and know nothing, hard work can only get you so far for so long. Eventually, you're going to be used and abused by the people you work for, and you'll be thrown away once your utility has gone. But if you don't want to work the rest of your life and you kind of just want to have people around you who help you and, have a sustainable kind of life, you're going to need to meet people and you're going to need to learn from people who have been more successful than you in the past and will continue to be more successful than you in the future. It's always going to help you. If I had had better connections in high school, especially pertaining to basketball in particular, who knows where I could have been? Who knows? My life could have been completely different. I could have been worse off. I could have been better off. But I eventually ended up learning this lesson. So then, after I was a year in real estate, not getting almost any results, and it started to become really difficult for me to transact and just grow in general. I didn't understand what I was doing. I was a mess. I met somebody who was able to help. Eventually, I did my first investment deal with this person too. It just ended up spiraling into something that I didn't expect, but I greatly needed. And you only realize how bad you need connections after you need to find someone for a specific task and you can't. When I did this transaction with this person and I was doing real estate investment deals with them, I didn't know a contractor. I didn't know a GC. I didn't know anyone who did siding, roofing. I didn't know anyone who did mortgages. I didn't know anyone who did transactions or escrows. They knew everybody and guided me to every single person I needed to be able to do it. Did I have to put in a lot of hard work and learn a lot? Absolutely. But that's the only reason this person even trusted me enough to be able to connect me with these people and be able to trust me with half of the investment fund. So you absolutely need to work hard, because if you are not skilled and you have connections, that can only take you so far. You're eventually just going to become a socialite and a parasite to these people. And that's not a way I want to live. That's not a way you should want to live either. You need to get a skill, grow, and make friends. Make people who are like-minded and genuinely foster and grow these relationships with other people. It's always going to help you more, and the person who has more connections and works just mediocre will oftentimes be more successful than the person with no connections who works extremely hard and is extremely talented. People can only get lucky so much, so if you can just kind of maximize your abilities and keep your work efforts as high as possible, you should have a better life, and business overall should just be easier for you. That was pretty much it. You like what you saw, subscribe, and yeah, thanks.